As you said, I'm working as a scientific curator here in the garden, and I'm mainly responsible for wild temperate flora. So if you went on the garden tour yesterday with Mats, you saw the rock garden, so many of the plants and the collections that I'm responsible for. And I'm also working a lot with Iris and trying to develop our use of it, trying to find new, better, more efficient workflows, and trying to start to use functions that we haven't been using before. And yeah, I think it's really fun, and it's really fun to be on this conference and to discuss this with you. And I will present now and also discuss with you our work that we had done on custom attributes in Iris. So, like half a year ago, this was just a big empty space on my screen, and I kind of ignored it. I didn't even take notice of it. But then something happened. And today I would say that I'm kind of addicted to custom attributes. So when we are discussing problems in the garden and how you can solve them with in Iris or so on, and my answer is always, oh, maybe a custom attribute. So it feels like it could be the solution to kind of all our problems. But of course, it's not. Some days I feel like, oh no, it's not, depending on what mood I'm in. But today, this has started to be a kind of crowded field in the database, and maybe it has started to be too crowded, depending. So I think it's definitely a useful field in the database, and I mean the main reason for that is because it's customizable. I mean that's something that the users want to have. So, and then of course I need to ask you, how many of you have heard about the custom attributes at all? Huh? Half of you maybe? And how many of you have been or are using them? Yay! A few of you. Yeah, so the thing then with custom attributes, it is that it's data fields that you as a user can define yourself, and that's the thing. You can decide on what you want to put there, and you can predefine like categories or values for different fields, and that's useful. And you can put them on accessions, and you can put them at the taxon level. You cannot put them on items, even though I think that might be useful sometimes as well. So I will show you now how we in Gothenburg have started to use them. I mean, we have really just started to use them, so it's under development. And I also then want to open up for a discussion how you can use custom attributes in the best way, or rather maybe how we as Iris users can customize the database ourselves. Even though I want to say that when I'm sending a lot of emails to Havard and Øyvind asking stuff, and you're also always responding very fast and coming up with solutions, and that you can add things to the next update and so on, and that's great. But sometimes I just want to fix it like directly. Yeah. Okay, so why have we started to use them here then? So we felt that we want to document some additional structured data onto our accessions, and we want to have that data searchable with some predefined values. I mean, you can add comments, of course, to all the accessions and items and so on, but the comments can be blah 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 and very difficult to search for. And this because we want to expand the communication channels around accessions and find out ways to make workflows more efficient, and also to handle additional data for complex projects, for example, new greenhouse. So, and as a background to this, it's also good to mention that, as many of you also want in your gardens, is that we want as many in the staff as possible to use the database. So that's one thing. And we, of course, also want to put in as much information as possible into this single system. We don't want a lot of parallel systems. Yeah. So then I want to show you 4 examples of how we are using custom attributes. We have some more out there, but I show you 4. And as I said, all of them are under development. So I'm happy to discuss them with you. And for some of them, maybe it's a bad idea to use custom attributes. Maybe we should use task instead of something else that I don't know. The first one is purpose. And so this was when the first one that come up when I wanted to use a custom attribute, because I mean I'm pretty aware of that there is already a purpose field in the database, a predefined one. So the purpose of why we're having an accession, is it, for example, for pedagogical reasons, or is it for conservation projects, and so on. We would like to add that to our accessions. But in this case, this predefined field doesn't really serve our needs, because here it's free text, and when you open up a new accession and write something new here, you can see that the previous categories or the previous text that you have written, but it's very easy to put in additional purposes, or like misspell and so on, and then it makes it difficult also to search for it. So this was the first test then of custom attributes. We were like, okay, well, maybe we can make a custom attribute instead, even though it might be better if it's possible to change like data type here, that you as a user can have it as a code list or something. So we try that. So then this is in Swedish now then, but this syfte is purpose. So this is all our attributes are on accession level. So here are some examples. So then on accession we can say, okay, but this one we have because it's pedagogical material. This should have because of that, or this is some at the university are doing research on this one, so then we check that box. And then we can search for this and make lists. And the next example then is the new greenhouses. That if you went to the garden tour yesterday, I think Mats was talking about it.
Not really, but you will see a model when it's having the drink after the session.
Yeah. So we are hoping here that we'll be able to build new greenhouses in a few years, and they will be located then at the same spot as the greenhouses that we have today. And now you can understand, okay, this is a lot of logistics and evacuation planning and so on, because the plants are going all over the place and hopefully then into the new greenhouses. And here we are thinking then, okay, how can we organize this in the database? And we have started to do a small pilot study with custom attributes on final destination, the final destination in the new greenhouses. Just like, okay, new greenhouses, and this is then also on accession level, and this is the different names of houses, new houses in the new greenhouse then. So okay, the plan for this accession is that it's an orchid, it should be in the dendrobium house in the new greenhouses, so the final destination. But then of course there's a lot of other possible destinations. Maybe this pot we should not even have it, we just throw it away. Or in 2 years it should be over there, and then in 3 years it should be over there, and so on. And how should we structure that data? Is it good to put it as another custom attribute, or should we rather use a task, or how should we do it? So that will be interesting to discuss with you in the end, I hope. And also one more thing here is also, okay, so in what form should we move this plant? Is it in the pot, or do we need to take cuttings of it, or you understand? It's the logistics is kind of complicated. But once again, we want to have everything in one system. We don't want to, a parallel Excel sheet there or so on. We just want to put it into the system. And the next one, I think it's really starting to be the season for this. It's about collecting seeds. So I'm also working a lot with our index seminum that we also have in Iris now. It's really nice. And then, of course, we need to know from what accessions we should collect seeds, both for our own use, but also to put in, for example, our index seminum. And how should the gardeners that are working out there know which plants to collect seeds from? And most of the seeds are collected up in the rock garden and also from our bulk collection. And how it's working now is that we have like paper inventory lists, and then we mark with small green lines here. Okay, this is an accession or an item then that we should collect seeds from. But I mean, this is really manual, and it would be nice to be able to have this information in Iris. And then, of course, this can also change from year to year, but at least it could be some accessions that you always want to collect from, because they are really interesting to put on your indexing list. So we have started to try this out. So the first thing that we have tried is to actually put the custom attributes to say, okay, this accession has actually been in our index seminum, and what year. And another one is this accession interesting to spread at all? Is it interesting for other gardens to be able to order from us and so on? And then another one that I didn't put here, but it's also like, is this really okay to spread? Or should we not put in our list at all? And then my last example here is registration of accessions. Because every year it's a big influx of seeds and plants, mainly from seed exchange programs and index seminum and so on. And then they are registered into the database, and it looks like this after a while. But then the question is, okay, but this pot, where should it actually go out in the garden? Because in most cases the curators are ordering seeds, but then, I mean, the next steps, the gardeners are working with those, and how should they know that this pot should go up in the rock garden, for example? And now we have started to try out the system that we custom attributes as well. When a seed is ordered in the catalog, we also put our initials and also like the final destination where it's going. So here Mats has ordered Aster Alpinus to the rock garden, European path. And then we have put in this as custom attributes for the accession. And the thing then is that this information is actually put then onto the sowing labels. So when you look at a pot in the greenhouse, you can actually see, okay, this one is going to that location up in the rock garden. And I mean, of course, this has been working out before as well, obviously, but we want to make this workflow more efficient and more transparent. Yeah. So I think the custom attributes, they are really useful, but then the question is when should we use them and when should we not use them, and how crowded should this field really be, and then maybe my biggest question here, is there a limit how many custom attributes you can have? So I know what it's like. Okay, thanks a lot. Have we time for questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
We use custom attributes kind of in a much more limited way in Cambridge. The way I view it is anything which is on the accession level, that stays with the plant. It's going to be kind of long term. You know, you might have that plant in there for 100 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, any information you're putting with that plant stays is part of the accession. Anything below that, so where it needs to be planted or whether it needs to be collected in December and whatever year, that would normally be a task. That's how I view. We have some other kind of scenario. Another scenario is where we want to make flag information up for our horticultural staff, so it's very clear for them to be able to see it. An example of that is if it's a conservation status, because the conservation data is stored in the names table, and it's not that you don't see it in the accession table. So we do use our attributes there to flag things up as conservation, for instance. But we don't tend to do the other more kind of complex stuff. We tend to put that down at task level.
Yeah, so you use tasks a lot then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the other ones that are used in custom attributes, how are you using them?
We used it when we first did the migration and installed Iris at work. The arborist team wanted to be able to, they take over trees when trees get to 5 metres tall. So they didn't want to be able to see every tree in the garden. So it might just be a seedling or a sapling. So we put in a attribute of arborist managed, so that they can then select and map out all of their trees or do it to a particular bed or what have you, so they can see. And that's been very useful. Well, it was a very quick solution to what could have been a very annoying problem.
We use them for fruit trees in some sites, so the form and the rootstock and some information like that. I've also been looking at how we can classify significance. So is this an original plant, a replacement of an original, and things like that. Which actually I've gone and talked to Alison Crook at the National Trust, because she's done an awful lot of work on custom attributes and has a list as long as that.
So this is not
all
the
carefully
limit
numbered and indented and things like that, so that it will order and things like that. So I'm sure I can share that up.
Oh, that's cool.
Can have a workshop.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think about the new greenhouses and that like evacuation program thing? Would you be using tasks then?
I'm not sure.
I think if you're talking about plants, you're usually talking about items. We had a big operation like this some years ago, and then it's better off in a task list that you really have an idea of which items you want to move where, not accessions.
Since you can just put this on accessions, yeah.
We also use tasks for more transient data, but there's standard tasks that we keep on using and other ones that get killed or silenced.
And we have
But-
like hundreds of open.
One of the things I'm trying to work on in Amsterdam is to try and get more horticultural information in a sort of digestible format for all the horticultural stuff. So for example, container plants that require acid soils or things like that, special treatment.
Yeah.
And if you do that in custom attributes and you then can create a the idea that I'm still busy with it, it's not done, but that you can create these custom attributes, have a report, and then you can use batch jobs to export that report so that you can export that report to, for example, a shared drive, and the relevant staff member responsible for that collection can always get an updated list of actually all the plants in its collection with the notes on care. So you have one sheet with a cheat sheet with all the care needs for those plants in the collection. So and it stays updated without the collection manager having to think about it, because as inventories get done, plants that have died out of the collection gets weeded out automatically. So so that's one of the things which I think custom attributes can be really handy in the taxon fields for making that information then available. And you don't have it, you won't be able to see it in your mobile app, but if you have the spreadsheets and everybody can see that, then it's also visible.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot.
Thank you very much for sharing with so much.